Welcome to Civil War Digital Digest. I'm Will. We've come somewhere new today and we're hitting another state. We're in Maryland at the National Museum of Civil War Medicine in Frederick, Maryland. And Director of Interpretation Dana Shoaf is welcoming us here. Before we get going, I want to say thanks to our patrons, the CWDD Coffee Grinders. So many people give a little bit each month, and that money allows us to be able to take trips like this and come visit historic sites, promote them, and bring you stories. So we've got a big item in front of us today, and this is one you won't be able to regularly see. Dana, what are we looking at?
Well, this item is brand new to the museum. It literally just came in last week and it's been in quarantine. So I saw it personally for the first time just yesterday. Wow. So I'm still sort of absorbing this thing. This is a desk that belonged to John Fontaine. He went to Richmond Medical College in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, and he will become the surgeon of the 4th Virginia Cavalry in 1861. Now, Fontaine is going to rise pretty quickly through the ranks, and by 1863, he will be Fitzhugh Lee's brigade surgeon for Fitzhugh Lee's cavalry brigade. And in that same year, he's going to be promoted as the medical director of JEB Stuart's Cavalry Corps of the Army Northern Virginia.
Fantastic. Yeah. And talk to me about this item. It's great that a new piece comes into a collection.
This came to us through the family, and we're still learning about it. Obviously, Fontaine would have needed a desk like this for record keeping. Particularly, I think something like this would be used in a more permanent winter camp and maybe been in the baggage during active campaigning. It does have a stand that this will sit on, but the stand's a little rickety. So to play it safe, we've placed it on here. The stand comes apart. This desk is very robustly made. It's got heavy dovetails.
And it looks like it's almost inch and an eighth.
Yeah,
this is a really stout construction.
It's stout. And everything about this indicates to me this is made for travel and wear and tear because it's basic and heavily made. And it's got a lot of wear on it, which is really fantastic. So we can see here, there's a little pen well right here.
That is the first time in seeing all officers' desk, whether I see a officer's private desk or whether you see the regimental records desk. This is a first for me.
It is really neat. And these two holes would have held ink wells. In here would have been kept the pens. And look at all the ink marks up here where he's maybe trying his pens or it's just stained from use. And there's a lot of wear across the top of this from these doors being opened and closed. And when you open up these doors, you can see inside these cubby holes. I don't know what the exterior wood is. The interior and backing wood is southern yellow pine, which is right on for something that would have been made in Virginia, for example. So you can imagine all these cubby holes filled with all sorts of records and administrative papers. And then these will close. And then this is the writing surface, which is heavily worn as well. There's a chip out of here. This little lip would hold your paper, and it's chipped as well. And there's just abrasions and dings and nail repairs on this thing.
It's really interesting to me as I look. You see that what would be a breadboard construction, yet it's mitered there at the bottom.
Yeah,
so it's really nice construction.
It's nice and strongly made, and it just shows a lot of evidence of being taken in and out of baggage wagons to me. And of course, you could see this in a surgeon's tent set up for record keeping in, a place like Culpeper after the 63-64 camp. It's down in Orange County, for example. This lifts up, and inside we see wax that has spilled in here, red wax. And again, there's a lot of staining and nicks and a lot of obvious heavy wear on this. And I can just imagine Dr. or Surgeon Fontaine using this.
What is Fontaine's lot to be in the war?
Well, he, again, I want to kind of backtrack a little bit. He's scientifically trained, as a lot of the surgeons were that served both the Union and Confederacy. And that's going to change the dynamics of American medical history as well, because both armies go with scientifically trained doctors that have been to medical school, which is good because they're technically trained in the best procedures that they could get.
And what are we moving away from?
We're moving away from sort of bleeding, where you would slice somebody's arm so that they would bleed and the impurities would flow out with the blood. And we're moving from sort of like almost home recipes or ancient cures like bleeding or cupping or blistering into actually anatomy, use of medicines that didn't always do the job they were supposed to, but a more scientific approach, medical treatments, proper surgeries, and more medical procedures that we are familiar with today.
And safe to say that we're moving away from the apprenticeship system of education to the professional collegiate.
Yes, both sides had tests for surgeons that you had to pass to become a doctor in the armies. We're moving in that direction, which is going to accelerate as the war goes on. And really, by 1865, we have a whole new medical landscape than we did when the war began. And Fontaine is part of that because he's a well-educated doctor. So again, he rises quickly through the ranks. He starts as a regimental, then he goes to brigade, and then he's the cavalry corps surgeon. And in 1864 in Yellow Tavern, he will administer aid to mortally wounded JEB Stuart. He's unable to prevent his death. And then Wade Hampton takes over the cavalry corps and will maintain Fontaine.
Does Fontaine stay in that role to the end of the war?
No, Fontaine will actually die during the war. And in almost every battle that occurs, there is a surgeon, either Union or Confederate, that's badly wounded or killed. Because a lot of these doctors are near the front line trying to administer aid as quickly as possible. On October 1st, 1864, I should say, there's a battle called Peebles Farm, which involves cavalry actions. And there was a Confederate cavalry brigade commanded by General John Donavant. Now, Donavant sort of had a checkered reputation in the Army of Northern Virginia. He had some problems with alcohol use. He had made some mistakes tactically. And at the Battle of Peebles Farm, Donavant is adamant about leading a cavalry charge on the Federal lines. Some people think he was so adamant about it because he wanted to redeem his reputation. He launches this attack, even though some of his other officers are skeptical of it. And he is shot down very shortly after the attack begins. Donavant goes down, and almost all of his regiments immediately turn and head back because they didn't really believe this thing could succeed. Fontaine gets the word that Donavant is down, mounts his horse, and rides out to provide aid to him. A Federal artillery shell bursts over Fontaine's head, strikes him in the back of the neck, and kills him.
Wow.
General Lee will light a dispatch. Robert E. Lee, immediately, I regret to hear of the losses of General Donavant and Dr. Fontaine. There's an interesting account I have here from a Richmond newspaper that was written in October of 1863 about Fontaine that sort of gives you a sense of his character. I'll just pick up here. An incident that I must not fail to chronicle took place on the arrival of our cavalry at Hazel River. The stream was very much swollen by heavy rains. Several ambulances containing the wounded broke down in the river, and the drivers found it impossible to get them out without aid. Dr. J.B. Fontaine, observing the dilemma of the wounded, dismounted and plunged into the stream up to his neck. He was soon followed by General Stuart and others, and with great exertions, they succeeded in getting all the wounded across safe. Wow. Kind of an interesting account of Fontaine, who obviously had a very high reputation in the Army of Northern Virginia.
Great. Well, we have an affinity to sharing items that aren't regularly seen.
Yes.
It's a thrill to see something that's so new to a collection in a public museum like you guys have.
Yeah.
I know you're in the process of revitalizing the museum, and we're excited to come back and showcase that. Do you think this has a home on display, or will this live in collection?
No, this will have a home on display. As you mentioned, we are in the beginning stages of a total redesign in the museum. The exhibits have been here since 2000, so, it's time to freshen them up. And so we're going to reconceptualize the whole exhibit experience here, keeping our stories that are familiar and people are interested in, but also adding new ones. This will be one of the new stories we add because there's a human element to this. And it tells us about the dedication of a doctor and also how the surgeons also put their lives on the line to try to provide aid to their fellow soldiers. And he paid the ultimate sacrifice for that.
Absolutely. Well, Dana, I think that's a beautiful place to leave it as a remembrance to him and to the other surgeons and medical workers. Thank you very much for giving us this quick glimpse. Gang, you can see it later, but now you get to see it ahead of time as the museum goes through its growth. Thank you for spending your time with Civil War Digital Digest. Our watchword is connection. This is a surgeon who worked for the enlisted men, for the general officers, and gave his life in his cause. I hope it gives you a little better connection. We'll see you next time.